Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, on the road after 16 months, coming out of a pandemic. There is no roadmap anymore, and with a guy who is really going to be building his own musical curriculum from here on in with his own bands. Alex Koford, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Good to be here.
I just wanted to ask you, why do you feel that my show is significant? I oftentimes feel that I can't see the forest through the trees sometimes, but yet I know that I'm doing something beyond a public service, and sometimes it does feel like holy work. But I just, from your point of view, what do you get out of it?
Well, there's a community I feel that you're a part of, so it's familiar, and you ask questions that are not so surface level, which is nice, you know. It gets it a little more involved and personal, and also it just feels, you know, it doesn't feel like a dumb interview.
Yeah, it's not a foreign. No, I mean, I really, it makes you think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You talk a little bit about. I mean, I don't want to project out too far, but if someone could say, Alex, we're, with the Wise Owls, I remember talking to Clay and Sam and from Apache, and like they're really torn, because sometimes people will be like, what do you want to do? You want to go on big tours of different kinds of bars, or and they're just like, well, we just kind of want to play around Big Sur, everyone has different feel, and what would be something like, half a year from now, where would you like to be with the Wise Owls?
I'm pretty ambitious. I want to have fun with it, but I also want to build something that I can, maybe in the future live off of. I guess in a year from now, I'd love to be. I'd love to sell out more California shows. I think that's a realistic expectation. In the past, I've done like East Coast and West Coast kind of stuff, but I've never really pushed hard on the West Coast. So I'd love to. I guess here's the biggest thing. I'd love to play a show that's successful in Los Angeles. That would be a huge thing for me.
I love it. I freaking love it. Can you talk to your peers a little bit about just sort of throwing yourself? I just interviewed Robin Ford, and he was talking about, from a musical point of view, even though they didn't know how to play jazz per se, they threw themselves into the music, and even though they didn't, it was kind of almost a punk rock kind of thing where they went for it. They go. What's your concept of going for it? To me, that's the most scintillating thing, because as an audience member and being a music fan, I can tell when cats are sort of like riding the wave, and you're not sure if you're going to be able to hang on. If it does fall off the rails, you get back on. You do it somewhat seamlessly. What does going for it mean? And is that something that, how have you cultivated that? Because even in our other interview, you were playing hard, but in control, but it did feel like you were going for it, as opposed to just going through some formula trip and what's coming and just playing it safe.
It's a trust. It's a trust thing, and I guess in like a live setting with other musicians, that's a huge, important thing that, for me at least, in order to be able to go for it, is I have to be able to trust who I'm playing with. So if it's a brand new thing, sometimes it works. If it's like a brand new lineup you've never played with, I think pretty much instantly you'll know if you're able to go for it or not. But a lot of times I think it just takes like chemistry, and that comes from years of building things with other people. Like someone like Ross James, every single show I can go for it. If it's me and him, and it doesn't matter who else is there, as long as Ross is there, I feel like I can go for it. And I think he feels the same way with me.
I'm curious about, though, that going back to when you get on the stage with cats that maybe you never played with before, but you can go for it. How does that work? Because there's not a lot of built-in experience and or trust.
Yeah.
You're just like, Is it just that with Ross, maybe you know that he's gonna go, you have a wingman, and you know there's another person there that's gonna be going for it, so at least you're not alone up there, sort of exposed.
I think it has more to just we know each other, and we
Right.
not only do we know each other as brothers, we know each other musically, in a very intimate way. So like, if he is doing his thing where he'll just ramp, I can follow that, and I know where to build and where to like peak and then fall back down.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes that doesn't happen with people that you don't know musically. Like a lot of times you're here and the other person's here, but
Right.
you think you're on the same page.
Oh, I love that.
So
you really can feel you're on the same frequency, and that you can drop into that soul space.
Yeah.
But even what's the closest thing I gotta bring you up a record. Remind me for that. What's the closest thing to jazz? I mean, you're a self-taught cat all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your concept of jazz, and how close do you feel you've ever played? What's the closest thing you have to? I mean, I listen to Phil. You played with him a lot, and he's somewhere between. I mean, he's a psychedelic classical musician, right? But also
there's jazz in there.
Oh my God! I mean, dude, like he is the psychedelic rock version of guys like Scotty LaFaro, who took the bass to a whole new level with Bill Evans. He's not playing as exquisitely, right? He's Phil's just leading. He's a lead player.
Yeah, he is.
But I mean, is that the closest you've gotten to a jazz aesthetic? Or
there was this one time we did a dark star.
We got a date on it, or do we know what year?
No,
I'd love to go back and listen to it. Yeah,
I could probably find it. Maybe in the future I can send it to you. But it was. I know that it was in the Great Room at Terrapin, and it was with Stu Allen. It was the first time. I love Stu Allen, but there were like a lot of times playing with him where I didn't necessarily like understand the Grateful Dead in that way. My understanding of the Grateful Dead playing with Phil was always, I want you to take chances, and I want you to play like yourself, and like almost actively avoiding playing the role of a Jerry Garcia or a Bob Weir or a Mickey or a Billy. So that was my whole trip with Phil, is he always wanted that. But then one day I was playing with Phil and Stu in the Great Room, and we played Dark Star, and Phil always wanted me to dance around, like dance, and sometimes it's hard depending on what the lineup is. But then that day with Stu, filling that void,
oh my God,
which is Garcia, it all became very clear to me, and the dancing happened. It was natural. Everyone was just kind of filling in and listening and responding to each other. And I think that's probably the closest thing to jazz I've ever come.
What is your concept of that? In the moment truth, where because
it was free flowing.
It was a flow.
Yeah, it was a flow, and it wasn't a backbeat.
Well, he's adamantly against that anyway.
Yeah,
he hates the backbeat. I mean, what I just want to. I know I've probably asked you this before, but when you came in, I mean, one thing about Phil that I respect is just how he built the infrastructure at Terrapin from the musical point of view. You came in with no real knowledge of the Dead song. But everybody I talked to, I don't care if it's Grayboff, Ross James, anybody, they were not fans of the Dead. They didn't know. They weren't Deadheads by any means. I mean, they might have liked iconic folk sing, Neil Young, all that stuff. But where did you fall into that?
I grew up with the Leshes, so that was
that's right.
That was I was around the music. I knew songs like Uncle John's Band.
Like the studio versions, or when they would stretch to 12 minutes?
No, I never understood that at all.
Okay.
But I had what is that? The Grateful Dead album. It's like the compilation with the skeleton, and he's holding the platter, and I didn't know if it was a roach. His finger.
It was a black album with the skeleton on it.
It's
or Skeletons from the Closet.
Yeah. I think that one.
Dude, I had that one. That one was passed through. That was and a lot of people thought that was the Grateful Dead. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, that was that's what I liked that stuff, and I think that had
it had Friend of the Devil on it.
Yeah, and what's the see that girl barefooting along? Right? Did it have that on there?
Yeah.
What's it called? Someone.
Anyway, continue. So
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
but
yeah.
then when and then so you were around that music and you were family friends.
Yeah, I remember one time I was very young, like because when I say family friends, I mean our families were very close. So I was around at shows. Obviously, I was 4 years old when Jerry died, but so I don't have memories of seeing Jerry, but I have memories of seeing the other ones, the Dead, um,
Hmm.
Phil Lesh and Friends, Further, all of every incarnation post Jerry. And I don't know if it was the other ones or the Dead, but I remember being very young and being backstage and watching them play and watching Billy and like a young, naive boy, I told Jill Lesh, like, oh, I can do that. Like, I can do that. I want to do that. And I played drums, but, whatever.
Well, I mean, yeah. Either way, you had you said that, yeah.
I said it,
Yeah, I
and
love it, dude.
but I didn't connect with the Dead at all. Like, it was something that I was just around, and it was a normal thing. I know it sounds strange to just be
No,
like,
your mom
you
was
know,
best friends with Jill. I mean,
yeah, my
you were
aunt and
there.
my
Yeah.
mom, they were all very close, and that's just what I grew up being around. But I was more into punk rock as a teenager and some, heavier music, and the Grateful Dead was not on my radar at all until I really started like smoking pot in high school, and then I kind of like understood that the stoner friends that I had Grateful Dead patches on their jackets, and like there was a cool factor there that I never knew as a kid. And so as I like got into that stoner culture, I understood it a little more. But even through then, it was like not something that I went to every single day, you know.
Totally. One thing that I love about what I've grown into is that I'm not really in awe of musicians. A lot of people put them on a pedestal. Um, like, do you feel like, I mean, you grew up in this sort of very interesting milieu of culture and music. Um, do you feel like you belong? Like, I mean, I'm here. I believe in you, but how as a musician, how psychologically fleeting is it when I even know from it's hard for iconic musicians over time to keep that faith, where you can go into any setting and get by, but also really crush it, and do you feel like you really, even after this time, I guess that's the question, after this much time off, do you sometimes doubt that you can still do it, or is that stuff you're like, it's so ingrained, I'm good?
Yeah, I feel better than ever, to be honest.
Wow.
I really do. But
Wow.
sometimes with me, a break helps. Like if we went back and we did shows with me on drums at Terrapin with Phil, and we called it the Terrapin Family Band. But
Right.
I haven't played drums with the Terrapin Family Band in over 2 years, and I've hardly played drums in general. I did that tour with Cass. I did a couple shows with Grateful Shred, and other than that, I think I've played drums maybe with Greg Loicano once and a couple other people, but it's been few and far between. But that sometimes the break of not playing that instrument and getting in my head, or like when you're in it all the time, at least for me, sometimes it's like stagnant and there's less growth, and then you take a long period away from like just even approaching the instrument, and all of a sudden it like clicks in a way that was always there, but you had lost sight of it.
So you actually think getting away from it,
Yeah,
then you come back fresh.
gets me out of my head. So like,
Right.
I think that it like allows me to play like me again and not have all these different pent up like years of anxiety of like, okay, well, I'm not performing this well enough, or Phil wants me to do this better, or like whatever, I'm not playing this song right, or all that stuff can affect you, or for me, I can only speak for myself. It affects me in this way of like almost making me shut down, being self-conscious, and not approaching the instrument like I would approach it, which then makes you not sound your best. So you take some time away, and all of a sudden I come back to the instrument and I have no anxiety. I'm gonna play like me, and it's better that way. So I feel better than ever, actually.
Um, and then what do you think it's going to feel like to like be I guess not just one gig here and there. I mean, like that first tour. Are you going to be like it's like a kid in a candy store, like doing it all over again? Like to me, new band or new title, new songs, and then an opportunity to finally. I mean, at the end of the day, musicians want to play for people.
Yeah.
What is that going to? I mean, how do how are you going to take it on? Because I feel like it could be you're very open about sort of having these big swings, emotional swings, like I think any creative would. I mean, what do you think it's going to feel like?
I know it's going to feel good because I'm very ready and I've had little tastes of it.
Yeah.
And every time I've had a taste in the last 2 years or 18 months or whatever it's been, it feels like nothing has happened. So I know that as soon as it comes back,
oh man,
it's just going to feel the same. And I think that's like, it's already happening. It's ready or not. Like I did my first flight to go to Denver last weekend. And
how DL is this stuff? I didn't even know you went. I mean, to play. Who was playing?
It was a private gig, so it wasn't announced. That's why. But it was Ross James, and it was this like private party that Mark Levy was gonna play. He ended up having to come out here for Cats, and so I went to. We kind of just switched. Funny enough, and so yeah, it was
that is sick.
Nothing announced or anything.
Okay, it was just. I mean, would you say you did a bunch of those over the COVID time, or?
I did my own stuff where I like went up with an acoustic guitar and played in Marin County, did backyard shows.
Sure.
Half a dozen to anywhere to like from 5 to 25 people outdoors. So I did that quite a few times. And that was great actually because it's it was a way for me to like keep myself afloat, work on my songs that I was writing, and still play live music, which was something that some people just didn't get to do, which is a bummer.
Before I let you go, I just want you to talk about how supportive, if they have been, your family and Ashley. I think it's probably self-explanatory, but there's a lot of people that don't have a lot of support from their family, and that could make it even more hard for them to get out of their head, or they could feel more helpless or not see as much hope. Can you talk about the gratitude you have to the people that are closest to you?
Yeah, my dad is very supportive. I think he likes to live through me a bit.
Yep. All dads do.
Yeah, he was a musician when so that's huge.
Was he very would he be able to give you some wisdom during the time? I mean, or at least be someone to bounce off of?
Yeah, I mean, always. I can always go to my dad. My dad is sometimes he is more positive and sees my career or whatever going in a much more positive direction than I do.
Absolutely.
So that's a beautiful thing. That's not a problem. But I can always go to him and talk to him, and sometimes it's a little annoying for me because I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like, it's not all good.
Yeah, and then I feel that, and then at some point, you just appreciate having a fan.
Yeah, absolutely. He's my biggest fan, and that's a beautiful thing. My mom is more of a critical, not in a bad way, but she always has been my entire life. She's not the kind of person to tell me that I'm good or that everything's gonna be okay, or which is I am glad because it pushes me. So I kind of have both. I have a supportive father who wasn't always there when I was younger, but he fully supports me, and I can always call him. And I have a mom who doesn't always tell me that I'm going to make it or, everything's going to be great, which pushes me.
It's a balance. It's
a balance, and it pushes me to not only, do better, but in a way, I guess it's like, no, I'm going to prove you wrong. I think that's healthy. Maybe it's unhealthy. But
no, I think that balance is key, and your dad can, on both sides, neither of them will ever really totally get it, but ultimately, you're just starting a whole brand new chapter of your existence. So, we'll see full opening tomorrow, man. I feel grateful to be here, man. Koford, looking forward to seeing you on the bandstand real soon, man.
Yeah, me too, man. I can't wait to hear you. Whooping and
fired up, dude. All right, man. Be cool.